What would you say? Because obviously Monty's setting up on both angles. That on the one hand, it's like Danny's earned his wings, so he gets to have the carry resources. But Jojo is obviously, I mean, about as much of a rookie as you can ever get at this point in time. So is it also intentional on his side to give him a bit of a break?
For Jojo, yeah, I mean, I think you just have to grow into the role, right? Like, he played his first games on stage this weekend. He's never played on stage before. He's never played with white noise before. And outside of the game, so he's Jojo's very, very loud outside the game. So I mean, I can hear. We have a very loud team this year, with Impact being kind of there, keeping them all on a leash. I think Inspired and Vulcan, and like, I could have sworn I heard barking the other day from the room. Like, when I don't know what they're talking about. I don't understand the humor. He's the youngest player. He's coming into a team environment. He's with these players. All of them have been to Worlds. Well, I mean, Danny hasn't been to Worlds, but Impact's been to Worlds so many times. Inspired has been. Vulcan was double LCS champion. It's natural that he's going to be at the bottom. And of course, Jojo, he has a lot of self-confidence, and so maybe it's easier for him rather than most rookies to fit into this environment. It's just natural when you bring in a new player to a team. They are naturally going to take time to adjust, and they're not just going to come in at the top of the totem pole, unless they're literally somebody like Perks, and then it's a bit different, right?
You said that the Danny guy had been playing all those years, but wasn't there some story, like you alluded to, like you'd already been scouting the Jojo guy for a couple of years, right? So he was 15 or something when you start watching him.
So I think it was Firefire that I've known for a couple of years. I've only known Jojo for 18. Oh no, I guess it's been a couple of years now. But this was a guy at the top of solo queue in North America. So obviously you look at you observe all your options, right? But I think with Jojo, yeah, I wouldn't. 18 months is close to 2 years, but he's somebody that you just assume is a Smurf account when you see him for the first time. I mean, he was there in solo queue, so it was somebody that was. I think that the thing that stands out is how aggressive he plays the game. He's really, really aggressive about the game, and I mean, I think with, I mean, can I talk about Jojo for a bit?
Sure.
Okay, just to contrast him a bit with Danny, like Jojo he comes up from Fortnite, right? Like he's been playing, he was playing League of Legends when he was a kid, but I don't think he's ever really played it seriously. And there are a lot of things where with Danny, he just understands the game, like he lives the game through and through. With Jojo, he's still learning the game. And maybe this is a bit of a risk promoting him into LCS, because to be frank, EG want to go to Worlds this year. And 3 teams go to Worlds from North America. And, Jojo, these are the expectations. Jojo has even higher expectations. But the expectations were, when EG picked up the Sky, that he will be a top 3 mid in North America in a league where we expected Jensen and Jizuki to have teams. He will be a top 3 mid. And if he's not a top 3 mid, we work on the understanding that the rest of the team are carrying him and he's not pulling his weight. Now, why have we taken some guy from Fortnite and put this pressure and this expectations on him? Well, to be clear, there was a lot of decision making in this off season around whether Jojo should be in the team or not. I don't think Jensen was somebody that we were considering, but there was a lot of like the top people who were moving were available. So why Jojo? I think the first thing to realize about Jojo is, firstly, he's new to League of Legends, but he is this good despite not knowing anything. And when I say not knowing anything, we were in review. We were watching the TL series. So obviously we lost 3-0 to TL. And Inspired had the mic and had the mouse, and we were talking about some team fights. And we're against GP. It's the second game, and Jojo is just sitting there, and we're having a discussion. And then there's a team fight, and he's like, "GP barrels can crit," and then the team is just silent, like nobody says anything. And then Logan is like, "Are you serious?" Like, and you get these stories all of the time with Jojo. Like people maybe see it publicly as like disrespect, but he's only been involved in competitive league in academy last year, and this year now, he doesn't know. Bjergsen's a coach. To him, Bjergsen, he's not this legendary all-time LCS player. He's just a coach that like transferred back into playing. And when he has this tendency to not respect like history, because when he was in Fortnite, when he was 13 or 14, he was coming up, he would be somebody, he just stream snipe these top players. He would stream snipe them, challenge them to one-to-ones, and just smash them as a 13-year-old. Like, even though these guys were like the most respected people in the Fortnite community, and he would just smash them. And that's how people knew who he was. And when he made the transition to pro, that's how people knew who he was. So maybe there's a little bit of that kind of disrespect for authority that he has coming into league, and he believes that he's only limited by himself. But it's a very, very different approach to Danny, because Danny is somebody who literally like lives the game. He like understands the game fundamentally so well. But Jojo, every single time he learns something new, and things like the loss against TL or the loss against Cloud9, those are things that he will learn, and he now has in his database, and he learns incredibly quickly. The only question is, was his base level high enough? And we sent him to Europe, because Worlds was in Europe, to boot camp, to see if his base level was high enough. And we got to be clear, when we sent Jojo and Danny to Europe, Asian teams, not T1, I can't say which team it is, but not T1, were offering Evil Geniuses scrims because they thought we'd sent our entire team there. Because they were so impressed by how strong Danny and Jojo were in solo queue. And people were asking for one-to-ones and that kind of thing. And that was when we kind of sat up and took notice, because the plan for Jojo was to try to maybe send him to an ERL for a year or something like that if he wasn't ready. But we thought that he was on the boundary, but we actually, because of the improvements he made, we thought he was ready for the step up. So
how true is it that because of your European like boot camp, like you're saying during Worlds, how true is it that Jojo was like a key part of getting Inspired on the roster? Because that's kind of a narrative that I've seen floating around, that Inspired was sent the highlight montage of Jojo, and that he's like, yes, I want more of that as the like reigning EU MVP.
So I think I'm not sure it was Inspired saying, I want to come to North America to play with Jojo. It was more a case of Inspired saying, what, you want to bring me to North America and pair me with this rookie that I've never heard of before? At least show me some clips. I think it's more like that rather than the other way around. But it's worth saying that, Jojo, from his performances in Academy, there are a lot of people, especially in the Polish scene, who know who he is, because lots of Polish people were watching Mystiques play in Academy. And actually, we had some requests from some Polish streamers to even co-stream some of our Academy games last year. So people in Poland know who he is. So maybe it wasn't as hard versus, say, if we brought in Elioya. I'm not sure many people in Spain know who Jojo is, but there's a decent part of the Polish community that know who Jojo is. So
I've got a story for you that I can explain the way I want to ask this question about this player. So the legendary film actor and director Orson Welles used to be a theatre man, actually. He didn't know anything about film. And basically, in the very early days of Hollywood, he just got offered a ridiculous contract because he put on all these theatre productions that had done very well. He just got what would be a modern day like Stars contract, where you sort of have all editorial control and you can do whatever you want with the film. And that's just the way they sort of lured him into making a movie, right? He famously made the movie Citizen Kane, which up until about the last 20 years or so was like famously the critics like pick for #1 movie of all time for a long time, and in part because it had so many groundbreaking like camera techniques and ways of doing stories and blocking out scenes and stuff. And what people don't know is when he came to cinema, he actually wasn't a genius at like cameras and lighting and all the things that movie was made famous for. But supposedly the guy, I think he was called, I forget the name of the guy, I would attempt to say his name, but basically this guy who was like the best cameraman or cinematographer or whatever in Hollywood heard about this story, like this like talented guys come, and but the key thing is he heard like he's never made any movies though, so he actually came supposedly to Orson Welles and said, I want to be the cameraman for this movie, like let me be involved. And the reason why was because he knew Orson Welles knew nothing about cinema. He even this cameraman guy just went around to all the other people on the set and basically just said like never tell him like how we actually do things in Hollywood. So as a result, he sort of says like, oh, let's just do a scene where like lights coming in through the windows, the heroes sat there, and then we open a giant door and we come coming through on the floor and said, nobody tell him like that's not even possible right now, because essentially his imagination will just be unleashed then. And then what we'll do is we'll figure out if any of that works. Like if we can do some of that, and we'll do it on the fly. And as a result, they invented all these amazing techniques. So basically, what I'm asking about now is, because when people are going to look, I'm sure the chat already saying it, like, don't matter how many great things you say about Jojo, they're just going to think of all the clips of Jensen carrying games at Worlds. They're going to think of Jizuke and how he basically was the team last year. They're going to think, right, this is, no matter what, you're on one here, Peter Don. You're overhyped on this play. You can't possibly be that good. But I've heard actually, and I know Aaron Ayer in Europe told me a similar thing in an interview a few years ago. He says it isn't just that teams are cynical and they want to, pay the young player, the rookie, not as much money as the veteran, like a Jensen might come out. He also says a lot of coaches in the modern day who want to have an impact on the game want these players that haven't sort of been taught anything, and they can mold them to some degree. Whereas if you sign a Jensen, obviously example would be a Soaz, these people are somewhat more set in stone what they're going to do, and if anything you want to play to what they want. So was there some of this involved with bringing in a young player like this for such a vital role as mid lane?
Sure. So firstly, I mean, I think that it's very rare you see a player that is as good as Jojo who knows so little. And I mean, it seems like I'm flaming my player to keep saying he knows so little, but there is so much he needs to learn. He's so far away from being where what he needs to be, and that's part of what makes him so good, right? Like the part of what makes his potential so good, because he will learn this stuff very, very quickly, and he does learn this stuff very, very quickly. But I don't think this is the case on a team like this, because this is a team full of veterans. Like maybe you can make the case for this in a team like Mad Lions 2020, which had Humanoid and the 4 rookies. But in a team like the current EG, that's just not going to happen, because you have a team that has 3 like super, super veterans who are going to have a large amount to say. It doesn't matter what I as a coach, or Turtle who's handling a lot of their day-to-day running, and I'm also helping, but he's the strategic coach. They're going to have a huge amount to say on the game. I think that there is one point to be made though, which is that by having a rookie mid laner, and like a rookie mid laner that's still growing into his role, and in fact a rookie laner that played a facilitating role. Jojo is the champions that you've seen Jojo on so far, the Corkis and the Victors, he's not good at playing those champions. He's a Ryze player, he's a Set player, he's a Lissandra player, he's a LeBlanc player, he's an assassin, melee, roaming player. Okay, you saw a bit of his TF. But really there as a really good jungle facilitator, and then you bring in the best carry jungler in the West, and maybe a top 5 carry jungler in the world. So it's not so much about giving the coach the keys to the car. It's more like giving the keys to Inspired and saying, look, you have this guy who you can shape, who you can work with, and we're going to play the game through mid how you want to play the game through mid. And if you had a player like a Jensen or Jizuke, I mean, look, Jizuke is my old player. I had a really good time working with him, but it's no coincidence that every jungler that ends up playing with Jizuke looks really bad, right? Because he plays for mid, right? Like the mid jungle, you can either play for the jungle or you can play for the mid, and he wants to play for mid, right? Whereas Inspired wants to play for jungle. So I think you have. I mean,
I just feel like Inspired is just like a different kind of Jizuke, frankly. One thing about you, Peter, is that you love, and I love this about you, and I love this about what you've done with Evil Geniuses, is that you like players with real distinct styles that are very, very like hard in the paint on what they want to do. And there is no jungler that's more hard in the paint on I'm going to fucking farm. And like, I love Inspired because I love watching his pathing. I think he's incredibly intelligent. I think he introduces an element of danger to games where it's like, because you never see him, he's like a fucking ninja. And like, because he focuses on farming and like counter pathing the other jungler, he introduces this kind of sense of dread to enemy laners on the map. And he's like always in fucking weird places, but he's elusive. And you just, as a team, you have to play around that. Like Rogue had to play around that last year, and you guys are definitely playing around it right now. I mean, if you look at him statistically, he's like leading the charge in like, he gets more of a share of CS after 15 minutes than any other jungler in the LCS through lock-in in the first week so far. And this is he's higher up in like CSD at 10 and 15 minutes than any other jungler. These are the exact same stats he had on Rogue. And what's so interesting is like the jungle, you really have to look a lot of times statistically at what jungle pick because clear speeds vary, you know, all of these things are really finicky based on the jungler that you're playing, but he just tops this category in no matter what he's playing in whatever league he's playing. And so he has this level of consistency. And like, I find that very interesting that you guys went after Inspired because I mean, it lines up with what you're saying about Jojo, that he is very malleable being a young player. And I'm sure for Inspired, he's like, yes, you will play around my style, you know, as a jungler. I'm sure he loves that shit. I'm sure he loves it.
European clear love.
Yep, Inspired really does love that shit. What I will say though is, I think that now that you've seen Malrung on Rogue, and Malrung,
that is very interesting, by the way, because he is the exact fucking opposite of Inspired. Like, he is, you couldn't have gone like 180 harder between those two junglers, and it's really fascinating to see what's going on over there.
But I actually think that this is kind of like, this is really cliche, but I actually think this is kind of a win-win situation because, frankly, the fact that Inspired and Larssen were able to do so much and do so well together, I mean, in relative terms, for so long is a miracle because people who have that mid lane style and that jungle style shouldn't be able to play together. Oh. It just shouldn't work, right? And so now I think you're going to see Larssen looking better now that he has Malrung by his side, and I think you're going to see Inspired looking better now that he has Jojo, because the balance is more there. So it should be really interesting.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.